Right, everybody. Welcome to Vology's inaugural training in our brand new training room. For those of you who are here in person, we're so glad you're here. For those of you on the phone, of which there are probably 9 or 10 of you, be sure to log into the WebEx information that was sent to you in the calendar invite. We're going to be going through a presentation that I want to make sure you guys can see online. Couple housekeeping items. This is the first time we've used the technology in this room, so bear with us if it's, not 100%, although Shelly did test and retest, so thank you, Shelly. For those of you on the phone, we are going to leave our line unmuted, and you can go ahead and mute your lines. We do want this to be an interactive session, so as you guys have questions, please pop them out. You don't need to wait until the end to ask them, and that goes for you guys on the phone as well. Just unmute your line and shout out your question, and we'll try to make this as interactive as possible. One thing that Vology historically has not had to do is do remote trainings for people who are all over the country, and now that we've merged with Vital, we've got people in different locations, so we need to start getting good at training virtually. If this, hopefully today's session will be good. If this doesn't work for you guys who are remote, let us know what your suggestions are. FYI, we are recording this session, so we'll be able to push it out for anyone who may have missed it or wants to see it again. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So today's agenda, we're going to really accomplish 3 things. First of all, I want to explain to all of you what our people review process really is so that we all understand it. I know there's been some confusion. Secondly, you have all received your people reviews by this point, but it's kind of like this is a lot of overwhelming information, right? Especially if you're a people leader, which all of you in the room and all on the call are. Some of you received 18 pages of feedback. So we're going to talk about what do I do with all of this now? What can I, how do I go forward? And finally, for all of you in this room as people leaders, we're going to talk about what you can do with the rest of your team in terms of your overall people strategy, which is really a Vology term for succession planning. So first of all, why do we do people reviews? We do them for a variety of reasons, but most of all, and hopefully now that you've been through almost the whole process and received all that feedback, we do it for the feedback, right? We do it so that our direct reports can tell us how we're doing, and our peers and our manager and the whole organization can kind of tell us how we're doing. We do this so that we can assess our entire talent bench across all people leaders of the organization, so we can really see, is our bench strength strong enough for us to move people up into different roles within their function or outside of their function, and if not, what are we going to do about it? It's also a way that we can really focus our investment dollars on our strength areas. A lot of companies that maybe some of you have even come from do a canned approach to performance reviews and subsequent investments in training. They kind of, everybody gets $2,500 a year to spend and that's the way it goes, or everyone goes through this training and that's the way it goes. At Vology, we really want to get more focused and individual and customized for each person because everyone has different needs. So this is also a way that we can do that. And as a reminder, the people reviews are not a performance review, although performance typically comes out in the feedback of the reviews. What we rate each other on and our direct reports on and what we're rated on are our values and our leadership DNA. And so just as a reminder, our values are these 4 things: simplify everything, think positive, be transparent, and grow. And our leader DNA is agility, focus, innovation, which is changing the field of play, decisiveness, and building leaders. I feel like I go over these things a lot, but I think it's important to do so because we all need to be rating from the same definition understanding, right? And so with Simplify Everything, it's just really being easy to do business with each other and our customers. So if you find yourself, writing out an email that's 20 pages long in a response to somebody else's email, you might want to stop yourself and say, maybe this email isn't the best way to go about working with this customer or my coworker. I'm going to get up and walk over to their desk and just have a conversation with them. Or if you notice a process that is completely bunged up or, too long or just doesn't make any sense, we want to find ways of simplifying it, right? Reducing 10 steps down to 2 or 3 or 4. We've done with this with the SOS operation. With Think Positive, it's pretty self-explanatory. We want to be looking at the bright side of opportunities versus the dark cloud in front of that silver lining, right? And that's how Vology has grown exponentially throughout the years. We've been able to focus on the opportunities versus the challenges. Being transparent is about sharing with each other candidly and not hiding behind ulterior motives or a cushy, you know, kind of fluffed up version of the truth. We want to just be really transparent with each other in kindness and with honor and respect, but tell the truth. And grow is really, all of you are here today to grow, right? You want to learn from your people review and do something about it. We want to, as leaders, help our employees under us to grow and also help our clients grow. And then agility is our ability to adapt quickly, right? Focus really has to do with focusing on the key things that are most important to execute results. Changing the field of play is doing it differently and not being afraid to try something new and outside of the box that may give us a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Decisiveness is not sitting on a decision, not being afraid of making the wrong decision, but going ahead and pulling the trigger quickly, and then if we made a misstep, because we have agility, we can flex and bend and get back on the rails. Versus waiting forever to make a decision and potentially missing an opportunity. And finally, builder of leaders is really, again, why you're here today. We want to build ourselves and we want to build others underneath us to be leaders in the organization. So that's what we rate everyone on, and these are the things that make up the people review. Next is just a visual of what the process is and what the other people operations processes are that play into everything that we do with our people, right? So at the core of it, it really starts with workforce planning. This is annual operating plan, right? This is, towards November, December of every year, we all get together as leaders and we decide, what are we going to spend, what do we need for next year? How many new people do I need? Or how many, what different positions do I need? What positions are obsolete and I don't need anymore? What software is becoming obsolete? We need to re-up either a license or change it up. What new technology do we need to run my business? These are things that we look at in terms of managing our business, and we put that together. Comp plans are reviewed. Are our commissions plans paying for the right things? Are they, motivating people to do the right things and sell the right things? And then our benefits plan, is our rewards package competitive? And then finally, on the outer circle, these are different operations that we do outside of the strategic things. And finally, in the full outer circle is our people review process, which is an 8-step process beginning with kickoff training. So we do people reviews twice a year. We do the training in June and November. Then we complete the reviews, we generate results, we share the reviews, we train and share the results, which is what we are doing today. And then we create action plans, which I'm going to teach you how to do today. And from that, as leaders, we create succession plans, and then we provide the feedback, continuous feedback loop. So just breaking it down step by step. Kickoff training, this is somewhere that we probably did not do a good job of kicking off training this year, period. We were in the midst of automating the process from a manual one to one that uses ADP, which is a more automated thing, and in the midst of that, we just didn't get out training. So we're going to do a better job at that next time. But each cycle should kick off with training that really goes through the definitions of the values and DNA. So right before we rate everyone, we're all kind of thinking right along the same lines, and we can get the most valid results because everyone's rating the same way, right? Then second, managers and contributors complete reviews. So every single person in the organization, both Vology and Vital, complete a review on someone. Individual contributors complete a review on their manager, and managers complete a review on every one of their direct reports, as well as some peers of theirs and people above them, executives above them. And this process, especially for leaders, allows us to have lots of different inputs to the overall feedback package that you receive on the other end. After we get all those ratings, it usually takes a couple of weeks for people to do their ratings, right? After we get all that stuff back, we generate the results. And the results are in the form of these narratives that you guys received with all the verbal commentary and the scatter plots and the overall scores. After that, leaders share that with their individual contributors. Now, for those of you who only have individual contributors reporting to you, there was not a narrative necessary. The ADP program generated that for you because it was only your feedback. So it generated the report. For those of you who have people leaders under you, then you have a feedback report similar to the one that you received, which is a consolidated report of everyone's feedback. And I'll show you visuals of this in just a moment. So when you share, you're scheduling a one-on-one with your direct report, and you're setting aside usually an hour of time to sit with them and go through that feedback. So this is what the feedback sheet looks like for people leaders. Sorry about that. It's important to note that this is consolidated. So this means that every one of your direct reports, some of your peers, and your manager, and potentially some just cross, collaborative people had input into this. Some people had as many as 30 or more inputs into their people reviews. Some people only had, 5 or 6. But this template, this narrative that you receive back is a showing of all that feedback all together. And it's organized in a way that at the very top, you see your strong values and DNA. To be considered a strong value or a strong DNA, something is 2.7 out of the 3-point scale or higher. To be considered neutral, it is 2.6 to 2, and then below 2 would be considered a weaker value or DNA. And so in this particular case, this person had everything was strong, really great review, right? Then in the overall score section, this is the combined score of the Vology values. So those 4 Vology values on a point scale of 3, a perfect score would be 12, right? And on a point scale of 3, the leadership DNA perfect score would be 15. So this is your total combined out of the total possible score. For my team, when I shared the reviews with my team, and I had all of people operations rate every single other person in people operations so that they had combined feedback scores, I took and I just made this into a percentage so that they could see, oh, I'm 92%, that's really strong, or oh, it's 86, solid, really good. So that they can, everyone kind of relates to a percentage out of 100 versus maybe not being able to relate to just a fraction. So you can help them in your next one-on-one when you're sharing with your folks, if you have folks who have a consolidated feedback sheet, by doing that calculation for them and giving them a little bit better perspective into where they really fell. Finally, the next section of this feedback form is strengths. So we always start with strengths because this is a strengths-focused process. We always want to focus on the strengths and put a lot less focus on the weaker areas, because by nature, we can get bigger bang for the buck if we get more out of our strengths than trying and failing to kind of correct a weakness. Most of us, our weaknesses are our weaknesses, and unless they're huge derailers, they're always going to be there. We might be able to correct them for a little bit of time, but they usually go back to where they were. Whereas a strength, if you build upon your strength, you're going to go very far, a lot faster. So we really want to focus on the strength areas. And then after strengths comes key areas holding the person back, and then recommended actions. For those of you who are people leaders, which is everyone in this room and on the call, the next step or the next piece of the narrative was the scatter plot. And we got a lot of questions on the scatter plot. So we used to show this in a line graph, and the feedback we received about the line graph was that it looked like a stack ranking, which this people review process is not about stack ranking. It's about helping people understand their strengths and constructive areas and becoming better leaders and individuals. But as a leadership team at the executive level, we want to see where our bench of talent lies. We want to see, where are our people overall. In our case, everyone fell in the top right. So if you look at this particular scatter plot, you can see that on the x-axis it starts at 6, and on the y-axis it starts at 10, not 0. The reason for that is because all these dots were so clustered in the top right that they were overlapping. So we wanted to stretch it out so we could really see, where everyone fell. So even though this looks like a big difference, top dot, so to speak, to bottom dot, it's 3 points from top to bottom. And in these top dots here, you're within, a tenth of a point or even less. So I think it's important to understand, because a lot of people who may be on the lower dot kind of freak out when they see themselves down there, but in the grand scheme of things, everyone was, for the most part, in the top right quadrant, which is strong. So we have a strong bench of talent. Then there is this ADP report that you actually signed off on as the last step of the process. This ADP report is your manager feedback only. So the consolidated results template is something that VPOP manually creates. Shelley and Lori spent hours and hours and hours of time putting these together. From all the information from ADP, ADP generates just a direct manager report. So Rana's report from ADP would be only, is Ann your manager? And feedback. And my report from ADP was only Steve's feedback. And so this is the actual record that goes into your HRIS or, people operations record, and this is the score that goes into that record as well. So as a manager, and as you guys are all managers in the room, when you're sitting down for these one-on-ones with your individuals, I recommend putting the emphasis on your own feedback to your employee. Put a lot of time there, because you're technically the person who knows your employee the best, rather than, all of these other ancillary contributors. So put your focus here, and then share the consolidated feedback as a perspective that allows you guys to just know what the overall perspective is. But the focus should really be here. So fifth step is training is provided. That's what we're doing. Yes, Kevin?
So I was just going to say, back on the, one of the things that I did that I thought was really helpful is when you were going through those different levels of how we would, I guess it was back in the definition stage when we were kind of going through what all the different ways we rate somebody, explaining what it means to be a change agent in ethology was very important, right? So they understood each of one of those things. So I don't know, do we have that when we are, and this is actually going to be very helpful, yeah, so that going through this with the individual, whoever it was, this was very important. They once they saw it and they understood what I was talking to them about, it was much easier for them to comprehend where the score was coming from, and then I would talk to, if it was weak, why it was weak and how we fix it, right? But this part of it, this definition part, was really valuable and talking to it. So.
Yeah. So thank you, Kevin. For those of you on the phone, Kevin was just describing that when he had his one-on-ones with his people, there was a little confusion until he was able to share the values in DNA and the actual definitions of that and relate it to the feedback and how they were performing and behaving in day-to-day work, that really helped. Great point. And something that we need to do a better job of when we kick off the people review process in November is training every single person in the organization what these definitions really mean, right? Everyone needs to first understand them to be able to properly, rate them. And when I show you guys some of the results, I think we will see that people who've been used to this process for longer rated folks that are newer to the process much differently. So we will resolve that with training and communication. Okay, so we are providing that training now. We'll continue to offer training. At the end of the people review session, we want to be transparent, right? So part of being transparent is sharing the results out to all of our people. We're not going to share those results with names attached, but we are going to share with you guys what it looks like, what our leaders by level are rated, and what different departmental ratings that we have to other departments, and Vology to Vital. It's a really interesting way to look at things. And so here's one of those items. So this particular graphic. Again, it's on a curve, so note the bottom, the x-axis is 8, not 0, and the bottom axis on the y is 10. So again, those are not zeros, those are pretty high scores. And so when you look at this, the orange dots represent vital people leaders, and the blue dots represent Vology people leaders. And so you can see that the orange dots are definitely skewed high, right, whereas the Vology dots are pretty low. So this is interesting. This tells us a few things. It could be either A, Vology raters are harder raters than legacy vital raters. It could tell us that vital leaders are stronger than Vology leaders. It could tell us that maybe we're not all working from the same songbook in terms of what the definitions are for each of the leader DNA and the values. We don't know the answer to that question, but I do believe that with more education and communication and training and being transparent about this, that those will eventually normalize over each other. So leader by level, this is the consolidated feedback of all of our leaders by level. So the yellow dots represent VP level, the gray dots represent director level, the orange dots are manager level, and the blue dots are supervisor level. So again, this is really interesting, right? Because you've got managers really overall and supervisors rate higher than our executive team. So this could mean a couple of things. Either people rate executives at a higher standard, and so they hold them to a higher standard and thus rate them tougher. It could mean that our managers should be executives and our executives should be managers. You know, there's a lot of things at play that we don't really know, but again, I think with more transparency in the process, more communication and education, it probably should normalize. But keep in mind, one of the key points of doing people reviews is to find those hidden gems within the organization and train them up to take on bigger and better roles. So whoever this top person is here, I really hope that that person's manager is all over them, giving them the tools and resources that they need to succeed and make it up to the next level. Now, here's where it really gets interesting, okay? So these are the consolidated results. So you guys as people leaders all received a feedback form from your manager which represented everyone's combined feedback and ratings on you. That's what this is. This is representative of only one rating, and that rating is your manager. So now we have this result scatter plot is the result of what my manager rated me, Kevin's manager only rated him, Rana's manager rated her, you know, and so on, Lisa's manager, et cetera. Huge difference, right? So where everyone in the prior consolidated feedback is really up here in the, you know, top right to top bottom graphic, here it's all over the map. And a lot of people, and again, we're not going to obviously share names, but some people, their consolidated feedback was 180 degrees different from their direct manager feedback, which was really interesting. And what this can tell us as individuals and people leaders is, for me, for instance, if I have a big difference on what my team is rating me versus what my manager rated me, I have some work to do on one side or the other, right? And this is where we can really utilize that consolidated feedback, because if we can find out, you know, where are we having our weak points, or where is the perception off, or where do I need to work, I can focus some of my time in that area. Does that make sense?
How do we know what your manager rated you versus what everybody else did?
Your manager rating is the ADP final signature form that you signed off on. So you have your manager's rating, and you can access it in your ADP file at any time. And if you guys need help with that, just see your business partner or see me. Okay, so the next one is leader by level. And again, this is just another testament to the huge difference between consolidated feedback scores and my manager's score of me. So again, the VPs are the yellow, and they even go lower. So it tells me this is a hypothesis, but what it's telling me is they're being held to a much higher standard than, you know, somebody at the supervisory level, which is the blue. So the sixth step in the process is we create action plans, and we're going to do that today. I'm going to walk you guys through this. It's a real simple process, but it's kind of something that we need to do. We have all this feedback. What are we going to do about it? So we really break it down into 3 areas. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do in the next 6 months? And what am I going to do over the next 12 months? And we'll spend a little bit more time on that in just a minute. So, okay, I have a 18-page review. Where do I put my focus? There's really, as leaders, 4 areas that you should focus on, and these are them. First of all, and most importantly, you want to focus on your strengths. So it's the very first narrative section of your people review. If any of you brought it with you, you can look at those right now. You don't have to share them, but look at those now and familiarize yourself with these strengths, because this is where you are going to go the furthest, the fastest. If you capitalize here, this is where you're going to make impact, and people are going to be like, whoa, you know. Now, the second piece you don't want to ignore, but a little bit less emphasis, is the areas holding you back. In here, this is where I would say there are probably some today fixes. So, for instance, if some of the feedback I'm receiving is, my team doesn't know where I am all the time, or, you know, I'm not sure if she's in meetings, working from home, whatever, I can fix that today. I can tell them, I can post my calendar on my door, I can communicate better every Monday of the week, and I can communicate this very day. That's something I can do today. Other people may have some really low-hanging fruit that is in the constructive section, but it's a today fix. You know, most times it's a really minor misconception or perception that can be really easily and quickly turned around. If you need help finding what that is, I am here to help you. Shelly is here to help you. Katie is here to help you. We can help you guys kind of pick out those low-hanging grapes and focus there. The other part of the holding back, aside from the quick, easy wins, is look for recurring themes. For some of you, you may have a very long list of areas holding you back. Some of you may only have a short list. But for those of you who do have a long list, look for things that you see repeated. We didn't filter anything out there. So, you know, if 30 people all said the same thing about me, when we put together the narratives, we didn't delete 29 of them and keep just the one. We put it all in there so that you could see how many different inputs were saying a certain thing. So if you've got 8 bullets in the recommended actions that are similar, you may want to think about an action plan there on what you can do. For the ones that are one-offs, and I've got them, I've heard a lot of feedback from a lot of different people where, you know, there's a one-off bullet that's kind of really nagging at you, and you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know where this came from, it's in left field. For those, I wouldn't ignore them, because I always think there's some nugget of truth in everything, right? So try to find that nugget again. Think positive. Find that silver lining around that dark cloud and grab that from it, but I wouldn't put a lot of focus there. I would put your focus on the recurring themes versus the left field themes. Recommended actions, again, this is probably the most overwhelming part of the narrative, because you've got some of you 15 to 30 different bullets on what can I do now? What are some actions that my peers, my manager, executive team, you know, other people are recommending I do? How can I possibly do these 30 things and exhibit ruthless focus, you know? So here again, you're going to want to pick 1 or 2 things. And what I would recommend is when you look at that recommended action list, which 1 or 2 of those things is going to add the most value within the next 6 to 12 months? And that's where I would recommend you create an action around. Because, look, we want to do them all. We always want to do everything. But where are you going to have the biggest either bottom line impact, if you're a GP generator, employee engagement impact, if you're in VPOPs, or even a manager? That's very important as a leader. You know, where, you know, if you're hearing the recurring theme on the holding back area is communication, and you've got recommended actions in communication, maybe that's where you can start. So kind of putting all the pieces together, focusing on your recurring themes, and the 1 or 2 value-added items that you can do. And we'll make an action plan here in just a moment. And then finally, for leaders of people with teams, and this is especially for leaders of people with teams of, I'd say, 5 or more, succession planning is what your next step after all of this is going to be. So this is putting together a people strategy based on what you know about your talent bench and what your future holds. We're going to have a really great session on this. Here comes my plug. On September 8th, I'm doing a session on succession planning because it's such a key topic and it needs its own hour. But this is a key part of our job as a leader, and we need to focus there, and we can use the people review input as a starting point. Any questions about the focus areas? Okay. So the next thing is the action plan tool. Each of you have one of these in front of you. For those of you on the phone, you should have received you received an email with this form. For those of you who were planning on attending in the training session, but you decided to call in instead, you probably don't have what we wanted you to have, which is this really beautiful laminated 2-sided manager 1-page reference form and this action plan tool. So it's going to be a little tough for you to follow along right now, but please see us afterwards and we'll hook you up. So the action plan tool is real simple. Shelly emailed this out so you guys have it. You can print out a zillion copies. You can give them to all your team members. You can have them for yourself. You can put it in your own format if this format doesn't work. But this is how simple it is. It's 3 steps. What am I going to do before the end of business today to affect change? And that may be 1 thing. It may be 2 things. 6 months. What 2 to 3 things am I going to do over the next 6 months, and how am I going to do it? So looking at the areas holding you back, or the key strengths, or recommended actions, what can I do within 6 months realistically, and how am I going to do it? So for me, you know, communication and engagement, morale and attrition, all these things came up, right? My strengths were inspiring and motivating and training and communicating. So what can I do? I can get in front of people and inspire and motivate and communicate and train and educate on all the areas where we're hurting right now, which is morale and engagement. And on all this stuff, the feedback that you're going to provide to your employees through this process is going to increase their morale and their engagement because they're going to feel like they know where they stand. And so that's what I'm doing, and that's something I was able to do within 6 months. Now, 12 months is a longer, more strategic, probably, item. It's something that's going to take you a full year to get to the end game of. So for Kevin, this may be, you know, BDR program curriculum over the next 6 months, but over the next 12 months, it may be, you know, to have a different org structure with, you know, leaders and more BDRs and more GP, you know, generating. It may be 2.0 of the onboarding program. It's a little bit more out there. For me, again, with attrition and retention and morale and engagement being my key points, I need to get my leaders rallied around this more. And it's going to take a long time for us to turn that ship around, but that's my 12-month goal. So it's really what you're going to see over the next 12 months is a lot more training, a lot more growth and education opportunities that are specifically focused on increasing morale and engagement and reducing attrition and allowing more communication of career pathing and planning for our employees, which is what they're craving and they're missing right now. So we have a little bit of time. We got 20 minutes. I'm going to give you guys like 5 minutes to just spend some time. I want you to leave the room with some notes jotted on your today 6-month and 12-month action plan. And you can work together or not. I know this, you know, some people review might be a very private thing. So just take 5 minutes. I'm going to start the timer and put together some thoughts on that. And I would encourage you guys, for accountability, once you've done it, go back to your manager and share it with him or her so that they can hold you accountable, or share it with a peer that you really trust and work well together. Maybe you go to lunch with this person on a weekly basis. Just share your action plans with each other, because that will kind of build in accountability in and of itself. As leaders, you may want to share your action plans with your team, people under you, so they know what you're going to be working on the next 6 months to 12 months. Nobody important.
Wrong room. Awkward. I go in the zone.
Got about 1 more minute.
I mean, it was just kind of the same thing.
Okay. So did anyone have any questions about the tool? Any confusion? It's pretty simple. Awesome. All right, so the next step in the people review process is succession plans. And again, I'm not going to get really deep into this today because we have its own training coming up on September 8th. But this is really an expectation of leaders, especially at the executive level, to have a plan, right? So if my top GP producer were to leave the business tomorrow, how am I going to cover that GP? If, you know, my payroll person, who's the only person who does payroll in the organization, were to leave tomorrow, what is going to be the plan? You know, and we need plans for this, right? It's not only to risk mitigate, but it's also to have growth plans in place for those under us who want to move up. So it involves a lot of different steps and a thorough assessment of our bench of talent as well as the business needs and what's coming down the pike and what's changing, and then putting a plan in place. So we really, you know, we've had a need for this for a long time. We haven't really focused on this, but we're going to start now. So just a few facts and figures for you guys. First of all, a third of our services leadership positions are filled internally. So it's 33.33%. Which is pretty good, right? Especially when we consider the feedback that we receive over and over through culture surveys and engagement surveys that, you know, there aren't opportunities internally. A third is about industry standard. What's even cooler is that, I'm sorry, that was our non-services positions. I think I said services. So when I say non-services, I mean sales, marketing, support staff, accounting, VPOP, anything non-services. 75%, and I think I just spit, that's how excited I get about this, sorry. 75% of our services leadership positions are filled internally. That is really, really good. It's about triple industry standard. So again, the feedback we're getting from our employees, especially in services, by the way, is there is no career pathing. I have no opportunity. I don't know what's going on. But the facts are we're filling those jobs 3 out of 4 times with an internal person. So either there's a huge disconnect in our communication as leaders, or the employees just don't understand the process, and I think it's probably a mixture of both. Another great item, internal hires produce quicker than external hires. We've all seen this play out, right? It is so much easier to ramp up an internal person who already understands the culture and the systems and the people than ramp up somebody external. And then finally, when done properly, internal promotions can really increase engagement, which has been proven to directly impact positively the bottom line. So that's all the good stuff. The yucky stuff, the bad stuff, the stuff that we aren't doing right is what's in the second column. So we've lacked leadership training opportunities. We have not filled the gap to take a person from an individual contributor and put them in a leadership position. We haven't provided them any resources. There haven't been any trainings, really. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 a year, but for the most part, there's not a lot of resources provided to them. We need to fix that. When we do offer leadership training today, case in point, and hopefully, you know, there's more people on the line, but how many people who said they were going to come, Shelley, didn't come?
About 10.
10 people who said they were going to come to this training didn't come. That is a leadership problem. We have a problem. You know, attendance is subpar. So when we do offer these trainings, beautiful new training room, we need people to actually come and take it seriously. So thank you guys all for coming. Leaders, this is really interesting. When people are promoted at Vology, they drop the next cycle in their people review significantly. So we've had promotions, you know, people going from manager to director, manager to senior director, director to VP. You know, we've had these types of promotions. In every case that promotion has happened, the person has gone from, you know, a top position to a lower, sometimes even bottom position. What that tells me is, again, we're not providing the resources and tools that person needs to now succeed at the higher level they've been charged with. So we give them a promotion, but then what else are we giving them? This is our problem as leaders that we need to solve. And it starts at the top, by the way, too, and we know that. But we need to fill this gap somehow. Fourth, externally hired leaders, as we all have seen, really struggle to be successful here. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases, we've hired, and Amy, I don't want to freak you out because you're awesome and we're so happy that you're here. But the facts are that we've had more attrition from external leaders than from internal leaders. What are we doing wrong? That's not a them problem. That's an us problem. That is our problem. We are failing to onboard our new leaders in a way that makes them successful. We basically, and we hear this feedback all the time, it's like, oh, welcome to Vology, here's your seat, good luck, bye. You know, and then when they don't perform, what are we doing? Problem. That we own that problem. Anyone who comes on my team, I own them. I need to get them up and running. That is my responsibility. Anyone that comes on any of our teams is our responsibility. Employees don't know how internal promotions are made, and I think this is really a sticking point because we have all these internal promotions. I think we had like 17 a couple weeks ago, and that is so great for our internal people. And instead of having congratulations and winning parties and yay, yay, congratulations, things are so great, we had mumbling and grumbling behind the scenes about why did that person get promoted and what, you know, why wasn't I included or why wasn't I considered? And so that tells me we really need to do a better job of being transparent about our process and having a process. And so third column, what are we going to do? We need to take deliberate actions on this. We really need to think about this every day as leaders. And purposeful planning is going to close this gap. That's where we get into our people strategy, which we're going to talk about. And I'm teeing this up again September 8th. We're going to go deep into this, but this is where our people strategy comes in. It's succession planning, it's organizational planning, starting at the end of the year, going into the next year. So we're coming up on Q4 here, right? We are getting ready to go into 2017. It's going to be here before we know it. We need to plan for that. So instead of like mid-year, oh, I need this person, this person, this person, well, where's your plan? You know, as leaders, we need to plan out for the next 12 months and say to finance, this is what we need so we can budget it in, and to VPOP, this is what we need so we can pipeline talent instead of just, oh, I actually need this. I didn't know I needed this, but now I need this. So planning is going to be purposeful, and that's where we start with a people strategy. People reviews, this plays into how we're going to do that planning, and we need to communicate our internal opportunities. We need to do a better job of this on the VPOP side, but we also need to do a better job from the leadership side. It is our tendency at Vology to, you know, quickly fill a position. I got a position, this person can do it. And we fail to open up a process for people. We need to get better at giving everyone a shot to get them in a process before we make a final decision. And then following that consistent process before we make the decision. So this kind of really tees up the need for the strategy. What does succession planning look like? And again, we call this people strategy here at Vology. It really is composed of four things. We analyze these four things. First of all, what are our critical roles? So if I got a top producer that were to win the lottery tomorrow and they're gone, how am I filling that GP? Or, you know, in VPOPs, it might be it's usually a benefits and administration issue, payroll issue, things that are going to absolutely break if that person or role leaves. That's your critical siren role. You always need to have a plan for that role. Current emerging needs. This is, okay, where our strategy is going at Vology. Where are we going? What's our, you know, services, 50 products and services, 50/50, 500 million in 2020. That's our long-term goal. What's the strategy to get there, and how does that affect my department and team? What are we going to be focusing on as a result of that? How are needs changing? You know, are some things going away or becoming obsolete? Are some skills on my team going away or becoming obsolete? Where other skills are going to be more important? I need to look at that and plan that out over the next year. Then, between the critical roles and the business needs and my team assessment, which is, okay, who do I have on my team, who are my players, where are they at, how are they doing, there's going to be gaps. And my people strategy is going to be my strategy to fill those gaps. The other really important point here is that a succession plan or a people strategy is internally focused. The strategy is not, oh, I'm going to hire 10 people from the outside. The strategy is, I'm going to find somebody internally that can do this. Now, this doesn't always work for like your entry-level roles. We're usually always going to be hiring great external talent in entry-level roles and then eventually moving them up through the organization. For instance, a NOC Tech 1 or a Service Desk Level 1 or a BDR in some cases. These are things that, yes, we can certainly fill internally if somebody wants to make a transition, but for the most part at the entry level, SOS, 1, we're gonna hire them internally, hire a great person with lots of potential. But for the other roles, our management roles, our leadership roles, our critical roles, we really need to be looking internally, because this is gonna be increasing engagement, it's gonna be a quicker ramp up, and it's gonna, increase overall morale. So there's 5 steps to people strategy, and they are here. Again, we'll go deep into this on September 8th, but it's pretty simple. We list out our critical roles, we list out the business needs, we evaluate our team, we locate the gaps, and then we make an action plan to fill those gaps. Each department has, so if you own a function of the business or a department of the business, you will be responsible for sharing a succession plan. You should have one, and we're going to go through the how-to on September 8th. It's going to be identifying internal talent to fill these positions, and the planning and the strategy really increases the likelihood that we will have internal talent when the need arises. So it's a more proactive plan and allows quick and easy decisions to be made when those needs do arise. It allows you guys as leaders to build your own team and legacy. There are a few leaders who do this very well here. Kevin is doing a great job on the BDR team. We're doing a great job in DPAPS, creating opportunities and ways for people to move up. And there's great, services, I think just promoted 15 different people. I mean, it's awesome. So there's certainly some people who are doing this well, but we need to get more planful. And this is going to allow you guys as leaders to grow up in the next role too, because until you have a plan to fill your backfill, how are you going to move up? It really needs to be the first step is who's going to do what I do so I can move up and do something else. And that's on me, that's on you, that's on us as leaders. They are correlated to engagement. So companies who do have succession plans, it's directly tied to bottom line morale and engagement. And as we know, engagement drives productivity in the business. And then the final step of people reviews is continuous improvement feedback sessions. This is a session we're going to have next Tuesday. There are 16 people invited, and we're going to rotate the people that are invited to this every cycle. We do this twice a year. And this is really a way for us to get feedback from people involved in the process, from what we hate about the people review process, what needs to change immediately, what we love and we don't ever want to change, and take all that feedback and put it in play for the next cycle. And we've done that, for those of you who have been here a long time, we've done that multiple times because it changes every time. It's going to change again. But we need that feedback in order to always make it better. So your takeaways for today are your one-pager laminated. You can keep it at your desk so you can always reference people review cycle, steps, your action plan. Be sure to do those action plans, share them with your team, share them with your manager, and come to the training on September 8th where we talk about succession planning. Finally, if you guys are readers, Kevin Shaw introduced me to Amazon's Audible app, which is awesome now that my commute has increased a little bit coming to the new building. I'm listening to books on the way to work. This is a great book that it really focuses on strengths-based leadership that I would recommend. Not a necessity. Some of you guys aren't readers. You learn other ways. That's fine. But if you are a person who learns through reading, I would highly recommend this book to increase the capacity and strength of your team. It's Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. So are there any questions that I can answer for you guys? There's about 3 minutes left. Anything that we didn't cover today that you expected us to cover? Was this a good use of your hour?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Myself walking in the door was amazing. Very, very helpful. Thank you.
Good.
I'm thrilled
Good.
to be a part of this and knowing what people need in this strategy.
Awesome.
All good.
Well, we're here to serve you, and you guys are awesome. And if you have any questions or want to have a one-on-one session about it, I'm here. Shelly's here as your business partner for sales, marketing, BI, accounting. Katie's your business partner for services, leaders, so feel free to use us. We're here. Lisa is our talent acquisition manager. She's responsible for all of our talent acquisition, internally and externally, so we're here for you. All right, thank you guys.